Welcome back, Megabytes teachers. In this video, we are going to demonstrate and practice changing the style of our data depending on whether or not we want to represent qualitative or quantitative data. And if we want to represent quantitative data, how do we want to represent that? By the size of symbols, the color of symbols, and what happens if we want to show two variables at the same time. So to get started, I'm here in my practice data from earlier, and I'm going to start by clicking on the Change Style button. Again, that Change Style button has three shapes stacked on top of each other, a circle, square, and a triangle. So notice when you start the project that we've got this showing just the location only. And from showing just location only, you do have the option where you can change the size, shape, color, fill, outline, etc. of that symbol. So if we click on Options and then this blue Symbols, we can make those diamonds that are about 15 point in size if we want to, and click OK, and notice that changes. Do remember that you have to click the OK button in order to keep the changes, and then we can click Done. So once we've done that, now we are showing all the symbols the exact same way. So instead of doing that, let's take a look at some qualitative data columns and what we can do to show those. So I'm going to go back to Change Style. Instead of Show Location Only, I'm going to pick a column of data here to show. So I'm going to show this by the school name. And your GIS software scans the data and it says, I looked through the data, I think this is qualitative data, and therefore I think we're going to recommend you use these unique symbols. So in this case, it gives every different school a different colored dot. And again, we use different hues or different colors to represent qualitative data, so this is a great way to do this. So again, we can click on Done, and we can take a look at the map legend, and it shows us that map legend, and it shows us where the dots are clustered, and where they're clustered, they should be the same color. Okay, so with our qualitative data, we can do that with teacher names, school names, the unique codes, anything that is text. So let's look at one other option for qualitative. So water adjacency. So in this case, either it's yes or no. So in this case, it defaults and just uses two different colors. And let's take a look at the questions related to bat boxes or bird boxes, because those should just be yes or no. Again, defaults to two different colors using this yes or no. And we can do the same thing here with land cover. Again, all those are qualitative or text-based data columns that contain categories or names of things. And as a reminder, be sure to click Done if you want to save what that looks like. So those are our qualitative data columns, and there are a few more in there, but you get the idea. So next, let's look at some quantitative data columns. So let's start with elevation. And so this elevation is the elevation in feet. And so our GIS software scans that data column. And it says, I think this is data that represents numbers. I'm going to recommend you use this size tool to represent the shape. So let's see if this makes sense. So does it make sense that where Saudi Daisy High School is down near Chattanooga, that it's at a lower elevation than places in Knoxville? All right, well, we know that water flows downhill, so water flows from Knoxville down towards Chattanooga. So yeah, that would make sense that this would be at a lower elevation. So logically that makes sense. So those points that are here in Saudi Daisy are smaller in size than the points generally that are up here in the Knoxville area. All right, again, you can click on this option and then you can change the symbol. So if you want to change the shape, the fill, and the outline, you can do that. Just remember to click OK and Done to keep those changes. Now, if you want to represent those values using color, like a choropleth map, we can do that too. So we'll click the Counts and Amounts color option, and it looks at our data and it says, okay, let's go from a light color to a dark color to represent going from a lower elevation to a higher elevation. So again, what we should see is the data points down here near Saudi Daisy, and it's hard to see on this map, so let me change the base map. The points down here near Saudi Daisy are a lighter color, so therefore lower elevation, and we compare that to the points up here closer to Knoxville, Maynardville, etc., and we can see that these are at a higher elevation, so therefore they're at a darker color. So let's pick one more of these to explore. So let's look at the total eggs. Same thing, it explores all of our data, it goes through and reviews it, and it gives us these two recommendations, either using counts and amounts representing size or representing color. So we have those same options that we can pick from. So let's say we want to, kind of like we do in CODAP, we want to explore the relationship between two variables at the same time. So we can actually do that here in our GIS software. So if we want to compare, let's say, total eggs to elevation, what we can do is we can click Add Attribute. And what we'll do is we'll make one attribute we're going to show, or one column, be the total eggs, and the other be elevation in feet. So we can look here at the map legend, and it shows the number of eggs is going to be represented by the color, and the feet or elevation is going to be represented by the size. If you don't like that and you want to flip it, you can flip that, and then it'll change those values. So now we see elevation is represented by color, and total eggs is represented by the size. And so now, if we look, places that are dark in color with large circles represent high elevation with lots of mosquito eggs. Places that are light colors with small circles are low elevation with low mosquito egg counts. And then we've got pretty much every combination in between. So let's click on Done and open up the legend, and you can see both of those at the same time. Now we have one other way that we can represent two variables at the same time. So I'm going to go back to my Change Style button, and this time, instead of color and size, we're going to choose Relationship, and we're going to hit this Select button. And if we take a look at our map legend now, what this is showing is this is using two colors simultaneously, and depending on the exact color that we get tells us the relationship between elevation and eggs. So this light pink color is when there's low elevation and low numbers of eggs. This dark brown, dark red color is when you have high elevation and high numbers of eggs. Here on the left-hand side is when you have high elevation but low number of eggs. Here on the right-hand side is when you have a large number of eggs but a relatively low population. So at a glance, we can quickly look at those values and look at that relationship. So for instance, most of these values down near Saudi Daisy are low, meaning low elevation and low number of eggs. We come up here and we look, and we can see a few of these that are this darker brown color, meaning they're high. And then we have some of these that are on each end. So some that have high elevation and low eggs, and we've got some over here that have a high number of eggs but low elevation. So again, we can represent one data value that's qualitative or quantitative. We can represent two data values at the same time. So actually, let me show you one other one. So let's look at total eggs, and then let's look at total eggs by land cover. So in this case, we can see where we have unique values. So this is qualitative data, and we're representing that number of eggs with size. So we can even combine qualitative and quantitative data to look at those two values. You could do that not only with land cover, but we can also use that with these about proximity to bat boxes and bird boxes. Or let's take a look here at water adjacency, because that's a yes or no. So dots that are red, not adjacent to water. Dots that are blue are adjacent to water. And again, the size of that symbol represents the number of eggs. So again, qualitative data, quantitative data, combining qualitative and quantitative data, and we can represent that by the size of the symbol, a shade of one color from light to dark, or combining multiple together in a different way. So we've explored quite a few different techniques for visualizing our data. So at this point, we're going to stop the video, and we want you to take your data and explore it and visualize it however you want to. Thanks for following along.